Are Nigerian government officials involved in kidnapping? Dangerous question, but it's one millions of Nigerians are asking, not because of conspiracy theories, but because the math doesn't add up. Between July 2024 and June 2025, there were 4,722 verified kidnapping incidents, ransoms totaling tens of billions of naira. And that's just what made the news. National surveys suggest the real number could be in the millions when you count every family that paid quietly. Here's what makes this different from ordinary crime. Kidnapping in Nigeria operates like a business, and any business that survives this long needs two things: steady profit and protection from authorities. This video isn't about accusing individuals. It's about examining why a system that should collapse keeps running year after year. Let's start with the money. The National Bureau of Statistics found that 65% of kidnapping victims' families paid ransoms, averaging 2.67 million naira per incident. Most pay privately, quietly, without involving police. Why? Because families fear delays, leaks, or retaliation. They've learned that calling authorities often makes things worse. Think about what this creates: an invisible economy worth billions of naira annually, operating completely outside government oversight. Money changing hands with no tracking, no disruption, no consequences. And here's the uncomfortable part. Authorities know this system exists. They've acknowledged it in reports and statements, yet ransom payments remain largely untracked and unpunished. When profitable crime faces no meaningful disruption, criminals learn one lesson: keep going. Compare this to countries that broke their kidnapping epidemics. Colombia made paying ransoms legally risky. They tracked large cash movements. They made the business model unsustainable. Nigeria has done none of this consistently. Silence isn't neutral. In economics, silence is permission. Now let's talk about what kidnappers use. AK-47s, machine guns, heavy weapons, military-grade equipment. These aren't things you buy at a local market. They require supply chains, arms dealers, cross-border routes, and access to stockpiles. Multiple security reports have raised red flags about arms leakage from state armories, weapons flowing from Sahel conflict zones, corrupt procurement systems, and involvement of current or former security personnel. Not every allegation is proven, but here's what is undeniable. Despite repeated seizures by security forces, these groups never run out of weapons. A weapons market that continuously restocks itself isn't accidental. It's a supply chain. And supply chains require infrastructure, connections, and protection. When heavily armed groups operate for months in known locations without their arsenal running dry, you have to ask, how? Here's where it gets really troubling. Nigeria's 2025 defense budget, 4.91 trillion naira, one of the largest in the country's history. Yet soldiers on the ground report shortages of ammunition, equipment, and basic supplies. Field units lack vehicles, communication systems fail, promised gear never arrives. So where does the money go? This isn't unique to Nigeria. It's a pattern seen in fragile states worldwide. Funds get approved at the top, reports look good on paper, but somewhere between allocation and implementation, the money disappears or gets redirected. When this happens once, it's corruption. When it happens year after year without reform, that's policy through inaction. If the security budget genuinely reached the front lines, would kidnapping still be this easy? Let's talk about something even more damning. We know where kidnappers operate. Satellite imagery exists, drone surveillance exists, intelligence reports identify forest camps that stay active for months, sometimes years. High-risk zones in the northwest and northeast aren't secrets. Everyone knows which roads are dangerous, which forests harbor armed groups, which communities live under criminal control. Yet these camps persist. This leaves only a few explanations. Intelligence is ignored. Responses are deliberately delayed. Security forces lack capacity to act. Enforcement is selectively applied. Elements within the system benefit from inaction. None of these are good. All of them point to systemic failure. When criminal groups operate openly without sustained pressure, they don't fear the state, they tolerate it. And when criminals tolerate the government rather than fear it, something fundamental has broken. Then there's the issue of so-called rehabilitation programs. Over the years, authorities have announced amnesty or reintegration for bandits and militants. Some individuals previously linked to violence were reportedly absorbed into security structures. Others were released without clear accountability. Maybe these programs had good intentions, but here's the effect. When violent offenders face no meaningful consequences and sometimes even gain legitimacy, deterrence collapses. Criminals learn that if you terrorize enough people, you might get a deal. You might get paid to stop. You might even get a uniform. This sends a message, not the one policymakers intended, but the one that matters. Crime pays, sometimes literally. Here's the uncomfortable political reality. Insecurity creates opportunities. Higher security budgets get approved without scrutiny. Emergency powers get extended. Oversight gets relaxed. Certain actors benefit financially. Others benefit politically. This doesn't mean the entire government sponsors kidnapping. It means parts of the system have incentives to maintain conditions that allow it to continue. Systems protect what benefits them, and when solutions threaten those benefits, reform becomes nearly impossible. There are also persistent reports of intermediaries facilitating ransom negotiations, people with alleged connections to powerful figures. Not every report is verified, but the pattern repeats. Unofficial middlemen, shadowy negotiations, money changing hands with official knowledge but no intervention. Again, this doesn't prove direct sponsorship, but it shows how deeply entangled the system has become. When the same failures repeat without consequence, coincidence becomes unlikely. Let's zoom out and see what this actually means for ordinary Nigerians. Nearly 500 schools closed in conflict-affected states by late 2025. After major kidnappings, closures spiked even higher. Instead of protecting schools, authorities shut them down. Closing schools isn't protection, it's surrender. An entire generation is being denied education because the state cannot secure classrooms. Farmers in insecure zones can't access their own land without paying armed groups for permission. This isn't taxation, it's extortion replacing government authority. Food production drops, prices spike. According to humanitarian reports, millions faced acute food insecurity in 2025, not from drought, but because farmers couldn't safely plant or harvest. Over 2 million Nigerians have been displaced in some regions, entire communities uprooted, markets destroyed, local economies erased. Displacement isn't just a humanitarian crisis, it's economic destruction that takes generations to reverse. Global peace indices now rank Nigeria alongside active conflict zones. Investors see the security ratings, businesses reconsider, talented Nigerians leave, the country's reputation deteriorates, not from a single event, but from sustained systemic insecurity. This is what analysts call soft collapse. Government exists on paper, institutions function in major cities, but in vast rural areas, state authority has evaporated. Armed groups collect taxes, enforce rules, control territory. Once parallel authority persists long enough, it becomes normalized. People adapt. They learn to live under criminal governance because they have no choice. Here's what really haunts this story. Kidnappers often operate from known locations, yet nothing changes. When a state knows where victims are held and cannot or will not act consistently, that's not a security gap. That's failure of capacity, will, or both. States rarely collapse dramatically. They erode quietly. One closed school, one unpaid ransom, one abandoned farm, one displaced village at a time. Institutions exist in name only while citizens navigate around them. The government may not be directly funding kidnapping, but through corruption, neglect, weak enforcement, and conflicting incentives, the system sustains it. So, are government officials involved in kidnapping? Maybe not directly, but the system they oversee, whether through corruption, incompetence, or conflicting incentives, keeps the kidnapping economy alive. Until ransom flows are disrupted, arms supply chains are sealed, procurement becomes transparent, and accountability is enforced, kidnapping will remain profitable. And profitable crimes don't disappear on their own. This isn't about fear or conspiracy theories. It's about systems. And systems only change when the incentives that sustain them are understood and confronted. The question isn't whether Nigerians deserve better, it's whether those in power will choose reform over the status quo that serves them. What do you think? Are these failures accidental or systemic? Let me know in the comments. If this video opened your eyes to something you hadn't considered, share it. This conversation needs to reach every Nigerian who's asked themselves why nothing ever changes.